I'm Philip Morgan. I created the Indie Experts Specialization Workshop. If you're here because the workshop micro course sent you here, awesome. If you're here because you stumbled across this video on YouTube, also awesome. There's some links below that'll give you some context. Let's get going on today's lesson in the micro course. Your task for today is to find as many competitors as you can for each one of your specialization hypotheses. Here's what you're actually doing. We're trying to increase our situational awareness of the entirety of a market where you might specialize. In a simplified view, there are two sides to this market: the buy side, your clients, your potential clients, and the sell side, companies like yours that have specialized and are delivering specialized services. In the specialization workshop, we look at both sides of the market. In this lesson in the micro course, we are going to look at the supply side, your potential competitors, because they are an incredibly useful proxy for gaining information about whether there is demand. If there was no demand, would they exist? Probably not. If they exist, there probably is demand for services like the ones you are considering offering in specialized form. That's what makes looking for competitors such a useful proxy measurement. If they're out there, they want to be found, usually, in most cases. That makes them relatively easy to find, and their mere presence indicates that there probably is some demand. This is not a perfect measurement. Are they about to go out of business tomorrow because there was demand and now there is not? Maybe. Do they appear to be specialized in some way, but they have actually made some adjustment to their business behind the scenes that you can't see? Maybe. All of these are possibilities. These reduce our certainty. That is fine. What we're trying to do is get a relative increase in certainty so we can make a better decision. And that decision is based on situational awareness. What's going on in the market that we can learn from. In the workshop, you decrease your level of uncertainty about what's going on the buy side of the market where the demand exists by building what I call a free gift of knowledge, a very small, tiny content asset, and circulating it directly and asking for feedback. Circulating is not actually the right word. Directly reaching out to prospective buyers and asking for their feedback. This also is not a perfect measurement, but it is one of the better, leaner ways I've found to validate that there is demand on the buy side of the market. So in the workshop, you take a look at both sides of the market and you use that to reduce your level of uncertainty about whether it would be viable to specialize in the way that matches your specialization hypothesis. Today, in this lesson of the micro course, you're going to see me try to find as much competition as I can that looks like firms offering IT strategy consulting to the manufacturing vertical. Let's see what we can find. There are two tools you can use for this research. One is Google, the other is LinkedIn. They are both, LinkedIn a little less so. Definitely Google. This is a brute force research approach. You're just going to try a lot of queries that seem like they might give you the information you're looking for, and you're hopefully going to find what you're looking for. In this case, we are looking for IT strategy consulting for manufacturing. Okay, here are our search results. Immediately we see big consultancies, Bain, Deloitte, so on. That is fine. These big consultancies tend to be somewhat general, and so their presence is not a very strong indicator, actually, that there's demand for specialized services in this area of IT strategy consulting for manufacturing. There might be, but the presence of these big companies is not the strongest indicator. As a relative outsider to this space, I'm looking actually for companies I've never heard of. Here's one, Dhart Consulting. What I'm going to do is just pop these open in a new tab and keep going down through a couple pages of search results and then review the tabs. You don't have to do it that way. That's just the workflow that works for me. I'm glad this search result came up because it reminds me to point out that there are directories sometimes that can be useful for finding your potential competitors. Things like clutch.co, G2 Crowd, I think they're now called G2 anyway. These can be useful directories. They are worth looking at. I'm probably going to skip them now, but in a more in-depth take on doing this research, I would absolutely look at these directories as well. Okay, here's our first that we're looking at in some detail, Dhart Consulting. Sometimes consulting firms are no better or worse at this than lots of other types of companies. Even if they're specialized, they can make it a little hard to know if for sure they are specialized in the way that we're looking for. But they do refer to themselves here as manufacturing management consultant firms. And that is a suggestion that I think they might get some of the kind of work we're looking at. If we look at their practice areas, a lot of it seems about the manufacturing process itself, but they do have software development services. And so I would guess, and we are guessing here, that if a prospect said to them, do you do IT strategy consulting for manufacturing? The answer would be, sure, we do that. We have done that, and we can do that for you. Just a guess. These are the kind of guesses we're making. If we are coming from a place of high situational awareness, we have to do less guessing because we just know from experience. We know that the last time we bid on some project or put out a proposal, the competitors were these companies. And over time, we get a very clear picture of who our competitors actually are or are not. You are not coming from a high situational awareness context. You're trying to learn and reduce uncertainty and discover whether focusing in this area is viable. That means you have to make these kind of guesses about who are and are not your actual competitors. Frost & Sullivan is a great example. The Google search result took me to this page, consulting/manufacturing process consulting. Seems like they might be a competitor, but when I backtrack to their homepage, there's nothing about manufacturing in specific. It's all how prepared is your company for future growth and these sort of general, broad horizontal messages, not a specific vertical focus. I need to look more deeply. At this point, I would say they are unlikely to be an actual competitor. Meaning, if a prospect was looking for a specialized solution, someone who really understands manufacturing and the IT process within manufacturing, that potential client is likely to overlook this company unless there's some other compelling reason. In other words, this company's specialization or lack thereof is not a compelling reason for someone to choose them. It would have to be some other reason. And Vista is a nice contrast. As a leading consulting firm for manufacturers, we understand your industry and the challenges you face. That is almost always the core value proposition of specialization in a vertical is we understand your industry in depth. We're not delivering generic solutions. We're delivering tailored solutions that work better because we understand your industry. Without looking any further, I would say this is likely to be an actual competitor. As a part of gathering this information, of course, I would certainly look at the About page and start looking at their client list to see if that matches their claim of specialization. And I would be looking also at the size of the company because if you are a one-person shop, almost never going to be considered a true actual competitor to a much larger shop. And if contrary-wise, your prospect is looking for somebody small and nimble, then the big company is also not going to be considered an actual competitor to you, even if you both have the same specialized focus. If you're in any kind of a hurry, if you're wanting to do a very quick, rough filtering, any search result that leads you to a website that says industries or solutions or anything like that, and then says the vertical you're looking for, manufacturing, healthcare, whatever it is, you're likely looking at a mostly generalized business that for the purposes of getting connected with search traffic has set up industry-specific pages, or they may have somewhat of a focus, but they're likely a larger firm that has several practice areas focused on several different industries. Bear that in mind, and that might be a way to quickly filter out irrelevant search results or competitors that are not truly specialized in the way you're considering specializing. The next search result that I've landed on is specialized, but in a purely horizontal way. Avasant looks like they're purely horizontally specialized on like IT strategy consulting here. There's no evidence of a vertical focus, which is fine. Maybe they might come up as a competitor, but they would not be as narrowly focused as someone who's focused both on IT strategy and the manufacturing vertical. Are they a competitor? Well, I would put them on the list, but I'm not going to weight them as highly as a more specialized competitor. Next one, TBM, specializes in manufacturing and operations consulting. Okay, what about the IT part? Well, their promise is we're going to make you more agile. We're going to accelerate performance. Are they going to do that by standing there with a stopwatch and timing people's movements? Unlikely. We've moved beyond that point in the evolution of management consulting practice, and so they're probably going to do it with IT or with a heavy software component. Are they a competitor? I would say they likely are, even though just at this level, they're not saying anything about IT consulting at this particular level, but it's likely to be a part of their value proposition, their pitch, etc. I would consider them a competitor. Myrtle Consulting Group. I was excited when I saw them in the Google search results page because just that name suggests that they're sort of a mid-size consulting company. Looks like they've been snapped up by Accenture for some reason, so they're not a competitor. Okay, here's Group 50. We landed on this page, so if we backtrack to the home page, we see that they have definitely that sort of operations management consulting focus, and they seem like they're focused actually in manufacturing. So again, they're not talking about IT specifically, but I think I would consider them a competitor. The last one here, Ground Floor Partners, food industry consulting. So we backtrack to the home page. Let's see if there's anything about, well, they're talking about small businesses here and nonprofits. So it looks like they've done that thing where they set up an industry-specific page to attract search traffic, but their overall focus is broader. I would not consider them a direct competitor. This is LinkedIn. This is their Sales Navigator product. This is the best tool to complement the Google search results that we've done. In Sales Navigator terminology, an account is a company, a lead is a person. We might actually, in our case, be looking for either or both. We're looking for competitors. If you're interested in the specialization workshop, you're probably small as well. So your competitors might be essentially self-employed soloists like you are. We are going to essentially replicate our Google search term here. So we're looking for IT strategy consulting for manufacturing, but because it's LinkedIn, they offer some additional granular filtering, which is really nice. And the Sales Navigator product offers even more granular filtering. For example, we can use the industry filter to look for whatever manufacturing categories LinkedIn has. LinkedIn's categories are sometimes a little weird. We've got electrical, electronic manufacturing. That'll work to get started. Like before, I'm going to open up a few of these search results in another tab, and then we'll look through them. And then we'll do the same kind of search, but for leads. This is, again, a lead is LinkedIn's terminology for an individual person. So I'm going to do the first iteration of what would be multiple iterations of searching for different varieties of terms, or I could link them together with an or search. Either way, you have to iterate through this multiple times. I'll start with looking for IT strategy consultant, and we're going to narrow that down to people who are either self-employed or work for a really small company and are focused on the manufacturing vertical. So the keyword will be IT strategy consultant. If on the left bottom here of this pane, we click view all filters, we get access to see them all. And the one we're looking for is headcount, company headcount. We can pull out self-employed folks, which is helpful in finding our small competitors. Again, we're looking for IT strategy consultants, and the industry we're looking for is manufacturing. And again, the categorization is weird. We'll go with it. There's 180 results. Does that mean there are 180 competitors? It does not. LinkedIn's filtering is a little fuzzy and weird and definitely imperfect, but it's a reasonable starting point because searching through 180 people is a lot easier than searching through thousands and thousands. I used the term brute force very intentionally earlier on. You are sifting through a lot of search results. It's not exactly a needle in a haystack, but it's definitely sifting through a lot of search results to find true competitors. This is real work. This is far less work than trying something and failing, or trying something and it doesn't work out, or trying something and spending 12 months trying to make it work out and it doesn't work out. So the effort is worth it, even though it's a relatively high amount of effort. And this is the kind of work that you do in the specialization workshop. Again, we surround it with more work, all of which is designed to reduce your uncertainty by increasing your situational awareness so that you are more well-informed before you actually make a decision about how to specialize.